Welcome back to Learn Your Stripes. I'm Ryan Guillory.
And I'm Michael Moran, and we'll start this episode as we usually do with the result from our play from our previous episode. So we had a try. A trails 28-30 with 10 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. A's pass is intercepted in the end zone by B29. A80 tackles B29 with a face mask. B29 gets up and retaliates by punching A80 in the face. And we asked, what is your ruling in high school and in college? Now, in high school, it's a little bit of a trick question. The ball is dead as soon as B intercepts the pass. So if we have a foul, it would be for a face mask, and it would be a dead ball personal foul. Because, again, we should be killing that play right away. And then the retaliation by B is an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and so B29 is going to be ejected. So the distance on both of these penalties will offset. We would enforce both because they're both dead ball fouls, and we enforce them in the order, but they're going to offset, so we'll still kick from the A40. Now, in college, it's still alive with the try if B intercepts it, but the face mask foul is declined by rule. But the retaliation by B29 is enforced. So B29 is ejected in this case, just like in high school, and we will then kick off from the 50. So there's a lot to think about there going back and forth.
Yeah, just straightforward, whichever level you're at. If somebody throws a punch, that's going to be a flagrant foul, so they're going to get ejected. It's just the way the face mask interacts there, as Michael noted. It's going to be a little bit different between the two levels. So something to think through, especially if you're working Friday night and Saturday. Hopefully you don't see this play at either level, but let's say everything goes terribly and you see it at both levels, back to back, night and day, then you'll know how to handle it now. So
there you go.
All right.
So tonight we're joined by Dennis Jackson, and Dennis currently is a replay official in the MAC, and he's also the supervisor of the Heartland Conference here in Indiana and parts of Ohio. So if you're interested in the Heartlands, this will be a good episode. Dennis, I just want to say thanks for everything time-wise you've invested in me. If I recall, my first season in the Heartland was the first year you took over, and that's when a certain pandemic also began. So we're kind of forever bonded in that way with the first ever season there. But I know you've had several calls through the years, just helping me out, giving me pointers on certain flags I may or may not have thrown and probably could have done better, but always in a constructive way. And Dennis for sure has gone the extra mile to help me out to continue to make my officiating career better, and has introduced me to some wonderful folks and continue just to give me opportunities to work some great games. So I'll step aside and let Ryan say some words.
Yeah, well, I think as from what Michael has said and from what we've talked about in the past, Dennis is currently my boss. Of the two of us who host this show, I haven't abandoned Dennis, so I'm very happy that he's joining us tonight. No, I'm joking. Obviously, very happy for Michael again with his opportunity. But Dennis, we appreciate your time, and you've done a whole lot in a whole lot of different areas on the field and the replay booth as a conference supervisor for officials, working the clock in the NFL. So I think people can get a good amount of wisdom out of you tonight. So again, we appreciate you for being here, and thank you again for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. So I think the first thing we all want to know, Dennis, is you've had quite an extensive career. Can you walk us through how you got started and where you're at now?
Well, I started out pretty much right out of high school, which was 50 years ago now. 1970. I graduated in 1974 at Oak Hill, small little country school, and I really wasn't a very good athlete. I was probably lazy when you get right down to it. I thought I was working hard, but I don't think I probably was at the time. So I always liked sports. I liked being around sports, and somebody said, well, why don't you umpire some baseball? So I did some Little League baseball. Then I decided to get my high school license, and I did that. And that led to basketball. At that time, varsity basketball games were very, very hard to get. So me and some other guys decided we'd start a football crew. Yeah, exactly. We decided we'd start a football crew, and because they really needed football officials, and we would tell them that if they would give us a varsity basketball game, we'd do their football games. So that worked in a few places, but
awesome.
Then when I got into football, I really, really liked it. And so I worked high school football from 1979 till actually, I think in 92, I worked the state finals, which was a year after I'd been in the MAC. I'd been in the MAC 1 year, maybe it was 90. I don't know. Anyway, the funny story about that was the guy that was our umpire got hit by a train between regional and semi-state weekend, and they called the IHSAA and asked if I didn't take the test or anything that year. So they called and asked if it would be okay, since I'd been on their crew all along, if I could fill in. They agreed. I worked the Cathedral Northwestern game in the 3A state finals as an umpire. My second game as an umpire. So, and I've worked 2.5.
Laugh, but hopefully you're.
Some guy got hurt in a college game, and I filled
laugh, but hopefully your friend who got hit by the train was okay.
Yeah. He's passed since, but he did recover from the train wreck, and we had when I look back, we had a really, really good high school crew. So I was very fortunate to get with people that mentored me in a good way.
Sure. I know that takes you into the MAC. So you worked, Dennis, we know you worked, you were a deep wing in the MAC for a number of years. When did you make the transition from the field to the replay booth?
I think this will be my 11th year in replay. So it would have been 2013 was my last year on the field. I worked 23 years on the field as a field judge, side judge. So had some really good games. At that time, early in my career, the MAC signed a contract to provide Notre Dame's officials since they were independent. The supervisor we had was a guy named John Nealon, and he graduated at Notre Dame, and so he was able to get us that contract. And so I worked Notre Dame at Ohio State. I worked them at Texas. Worked at Notre Dame with Navy. Wow. Those were some pretty good highlights.
I'm sure. In addition to those, I know that you've had a chance to work a Super Bowl from the clock perspective. Is that, when you look back on your career, and again, you've worn many, many different hats, what do you consider some of your highlights, if we haven't touched on those already?
Oh, that'd be one of the highlights. Actually, I worked 2 Super Bowls. I worked the one in Indy. Oh. Kind of by default, because we were the timing crew in Indy, and since Indianapolis wasn't in it. And then they kind of changed the model and went by ratings. So in COVID year, 2020, I worked the Super Bowl in Tampa, which was kind of bizarre because it had cardboard fans, cutouts in the stands.
Right. Yeah.
And really, it looked normal, honestly, from the press box, but I think they said there was like 25,000 people there. So I probably worked the least attended Super Bowl in the history. So, but that was a big highlight. I worked several bowl games. That's always fun. So I don't know. It's a good life.
Yeah, and you got the chance to give Michael Moran his start. So someday, 10 years down the line, you'll be able to look back on that too.
Well, I'll be able to say, hey, I knew that guy when he was just a pup wet behind the ears.
Absolutely.
Well,
you know what? That's honestly, that's my goal, is to, you guys are the lifeblood of officiating now. And I hope at some point you're sitting in this chair and you guys have helped everybody that you can help. And I mean, that's what it's about. So that's why I do the HCAC. It's not they pay me a huge amount, but that's not the reason I do it. So
seven figures, I heard. Yeah.
Sarcasm, by the way.
Yeah.
No. Trust me, we know. We get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you guys of anybody should know that we don't play very well in the
Right.
Division Three.
Right.
Yeah, when those Monday email notifications come in after the games, we know awfully well
Yep.
about that side of it. You talked about reaching out and helping other officials, Dennis, and a lot of people we talk to, the theme is the same, that people helped us to get to where we are, helped you to get to where you are. So it's part of the circle of life, I guess, in our field, that people help us out, and it's our duty in turn to help pull them back up. Who are some of the people who, when you look back on it, were influential for you, both getting a start and then advancing as you have?
Well, Mark Baltz was my rocket fuel, I guess, for lack of a better term. I worked at high school basketball sectional, girls basketball sectional with him. Told him I was interested in college football. And of course, he said, "How long have you worked?" And I told him, I don't even know how long it had been then. He said, "Well, I have a Division III crew. It's full, but we take alternates. And generally the alternates come on a Saturday and just stand on the sideline and keep the penalties or do whatever. Would you be interested?" And I'm thinking, probably not in that. So he said, "Well, we're having a meeting." So I'll never forget, we met in the Village Inn in Roanoke upstairs in a banquet room. And so it was Mark Baltz, and the crew was Jim Thomas, Mark Baltz, Carter Lohr, just Bill Etzler, guys that nobody's heard of nowadays. But Carter, we actually, off of that crew, everybody went on to work Division I football. So it was a pretty solid college crew. But Baltz, the year that I was going to be the alternate, Baltz got in the Mid-American Conference for 2 games, and some guy broke his leg, and Baltz got in the Big Ten. So wind blew, stuff flew, and Baltz, he was only here a game or two. It was kind of the story of the MAC. So that left an opening on his career. I forget who they took, but also at that time, what is now I think you guys would know it kind of as the Ohio Valley, Eastern Illinois, and teams like that. It was between the Valley and the Missouri Valley. Some of those teams, they used the Big Ten officials. So Baltz had some connections there. So he got some of the guys on the crew into that league. Well, that left openings on the Division III crew. So I think I worked 3 games my first year, which I think Jim Thomas had been an alternate for 4 years before he ever worked. So sometimes my timing's been very good. Sometimes it hadn't been so good. So Baltzy was really the big.
Oh, sorry to cut you off there. It sounds like some of the patience you've had to have over the years too, right? And I know I'm guilty of this myself. I'm sure some other listeners can relate. It's the patience, right? Being ready for that opportunity, taking advantage of it, but realizing that opportunity is not going to be there every week. You just got to put your time in. Is that kind of what you experienced?
Yeah, that was, it's changed a lot. When I got in the MAC, I was 35 years old and I was the second youngest guy there. Well, now 35, you're pretty old, unfortunately, in the Mid-American Conference now. So you can imagine how old I am now. So the things seem to move a lot faster. There are more opportunities now. I mean, the COC, which is the Big Ten, the MAC, and the Missouri Valley have. You just have a lot more opportunities. You have a lot more educational tools than we had. When I first got in the Mid-American Conference, if you wanted to watch your game film, you had one VCR tape, and the referee took it to the game and you gave it to the film guy with his address, and he provided the postage. And about probably 60% of the time, he would get the tape back. 40% of the time, you never saw it again. So
Wow.
that, then it would get mailed to all the crew guys. Well, heck, I might not see it till December. So, now you guys, even in the Division III, you've got your games the next day usually. And
Right.
in the MAC, you can get them when you go in there. You can log on to your iPad and watch your game in the locker rooms as soon as you're done. So that's changed a lot. Rule study has changed a lot. I mean, used to, we had one or two guys on the crew that knew the rules. You were good enough. Well, that's not good enough anymore. We all have to know them. But by this, we can make more money. But by the same token, there's more pressure and more scrutiny. So,
Sure.
Division III honestly is a good place to officiate. It's to me, that's the grassroots of college football. The kids are there because they want to be. I mean, some of those, they get some scholarship help, but not a lot. And, it's, for the most part, it's pretty competitive football. So I really enjoyed my time in Division III and a short time in Division II. So
in your role as a supervisor for the Heartland Conference, obviously there are Saturdays where you're scrambling to find someone due to injury or illness or whatnot, or, somebody might have a chance at the D2 level for a week and we might need a body. As a supervisor, what are the things that when you're dealing with an applicant or, somebody on the supplemental list, what are the things that move that person up your list for future consideration and the things that either push them off or move them down in terms of, things that you don't want to hear?
Well, availability is a big thing. If I call you on a Saturday morning, if I'm calling you on Saturday morning, I'm already desperate, right? So, and
Sure.
I know everybody has plans, but if you can go, that makes you get a big plus mark in my book. I like people that stay in touch, but don't overdo it. I mean, like
Right.
Michael, he would hound me. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, I remember getting those Saturday morning phone calls. I think it was that first year we put everything in the spring and my crew was off and I rolled out of bed at, I don't know, I didn't have a game. So I rolled out of bed at like 7:30 and I missed a text from 45 minutes. You'd sent me something at 6:30. Hey, can you drive to this school 3 hours away? Oh yeah, shoot. I'm on my way. So don't ever sleep in on a Saturday was my takeaway.
Did that really happen?
Yeah. It's a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Like during COVID, it was a mess. I was in Buffalo.
That's what exactly it was. Yep.
Games, and one of our guys tested positive for COVID the night before. My first question was, why did you test? But he did. So, there I am. I got to find somebody between then, and I think I had a noon game. So it's a little stressful. As you guys well know, we have a great staff. There isn't anybody on our staff that doesn't want to get better. So
very true.
It's just the people make it easy to do it. Honestly, I know I get. I don't. Like the COC has a testing program. They have a mentor program. They have this program. They have that program. But in the COC, we actually, for the most part, make a profit. Where I know you guys probably spend your whole checks on camps in the spring. So I don't feel like I can ask you to do all the stuff that they ask us to do in the COC. I did like your idea yesterday, Michael, where you make it available and those that want to use it, and those that don't that's fine too. So going to think some about that.
Sure.
I've got to get the clinic planned out here pretty soon. So I know a lot of people have, on the Division III especially, have gone to virtual clinics where they just meet for an hour and a half. But the COC has gotten so big that now they bring in like the line of scrimmage people on Monday and Tuesday, and the deep people on Wednesday and Thursday, and the referees and the umpire center judges replay people on Friday and Saturday. Well, there's a lot of people I never get to see anymore, and that's that's part of the fun of the whole deal. So.
Well, so talking about being a supervisor and planning clinics and COC assignments and assigning us, I mean, the balance between work and life, this is something we ask our guests all the time. Talk about how you balance, the last 50 years, how you made that work for you.
Well, I've always worked a job that I could officiate with. I've probably turned down some really good jobs, so because I wasn't going to be allowed to. It would have taken too much time away. Officiating would have. So I, when I started out, I just had a goal of working Division III, and then I got in Division III, and I thought, man, I'd sure like to work Division II, and then I got in Division II, and I thought, maybe I can get to where I want to go, and the NFL was really my end goal. So I did work 2 different seasons in NFL Europe, which was a great experience. Met a lot of good people and got to tour Europe on the NFL's dime. And, it was a great experience, had a lot of fun. But the timing just wasn't right for me to get in the NFL. So I went through the interview process, and it was probably the psych evaluation that got me that got me blackballed out of there. It was an interesting process. But when I didn't make it in the NFL, I thought, being in the MAC isn't the worst thing in the world. At that time I was working a bowl game about every year, so it was fine. I was disappointed, but I wasn't what you would call discouraged. I just shifted to something else and moved on. Family, I never had any kids, and Linda has always been a great supporter of officiating. As long as I'll take her with me if we go to nice places. So, honestly, guys,
like
I
Idaho,
went to Europe, had no desire to go to Europe, and now I go back in a heartbeat. So, it's taken me all over the world. I think I counted the other day. I'd worked in 36 states and 4 different countries. So I've been around a little.
Wow.
Yeah, a little bit there. You mentioned clinics. I recently got back from a clinic that I went to for replay, just to sort of get that process going and learn, the equipment and the basic mechanics and all. And from the scary little bit of knowledge I do have about it, it's a much, much different thought process than what you do on the field. Whereas on the field, you're having to make split-second decisions. When you're there, if you can't confirm something that you have to confirm, then even if it's probably could be confirmed, or probably it's what happened, but you just can't get there, then you have to stand with what was called. Do you find any difficulty, switching through, on Saturday being a replay official, and then if you're evaluating, our games or somebody else's games, getting your mindset back into that on field? Or is that an easy transition for you, given all the time you spent on the field?
It's better now. When I first started, it was kind of hard, and I was a communicator for 5 years, I think, and I would say, hey, I know that's a catch, and you can't you can't prove it's a catch. So, one thing that it did do was in looking at the replays and thinking back to my time on the field, I'm thinking, I wonder how many times I thought I was dead right and wasn't.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because for the majority of my career, I didn't have when I was on the field. I think maybe the last 3 or 4 years is all we had replay, and I got reviewed once and overturned, and that was the only time I'd ever had that. And at that time, I was pretty sure that what had happened, but it was a deal where if I blew the whistle and was wrong, there wasn't any way we could have made it right. So I let it play out. But to go from on the field to the booth, it it is a lot different. As I'm sure you found out at that clinic, you just have to have a
Sure.
whole different mindset. So, and you're the last line of defense, so they don't
Right.
like it very well when we screw something up there. So,
Yeah. No, absolutely. We talked about things that, if somebody wanted to, a high school official or somebody looking to get into college, things they could do to impress, whether it's you or another supervisor that they might be applying to. Um, are there, given your career and I guess the various hats that you wear now, um, in addition to just being available and answering the phone, any other tips for those aspiring to make that jump from high school to college at this point?
yeah, you got, the one thing about that Division 3 crew I was on, everybody was like minded. I mean, we all wanted to go to the next level. Um, so we all worked very hard at it. I mean, you had some crews, and as you guys well know, in Division 3, that just they like to go do their game and drink beer on the way home and do it again next Saturday. But we were more like you guys are, where we would study the film and try and get better each week and learn the rules. And that it was hard because you work in high school. And, excuse me, you work in high school, and on Friday night you're getting in the car. And when I was in that Division 2 league, you might go to Northern Michigan, so you'd work your game on Friday night, get in the car, and drive all night. So
Mm-hmm.
it and there was a different set of rules, and there was times I got them confused, but it's probably the best time of my life because you were working. You'd work. We worked pretty high up in the high school playoffs usually, so I think we'd work 14 games maybe in high school and 10 or 11 in college. So that's a lot of snaps. And up until 2 or 3 years ago, I was still doing junior high and freshman football. So that's where all the crazy stuff happens, and you go home and figure out whether you were right or not,
Yeah.
and learn from that. So, as far as I would say that, you get guys that that's the bad side of Michael going to Division 2, because there just isn't time to work high school football and travel in Division 2. So you lose those
Yep.
however many games you were going to work, 12, 13 games. You lose those snaps. Um, and I think that hurts, but you got to make that step at some point if you want to keep moving up the ladder. Um,
Sure.
Another thing, the main thing I look at when I'm going to hire somebody is you guys. If you tell me this guy's, Joe Blow from Kokomo, he can do it, and I say, well, would you take him on your crew? Yes. That's a pretty good endorsement in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had several guys from the Fort Wayne area that want to work, but they don't want to work the JV games. That's why, you got to work your way in. Well, we can officiate. And I said, yeah, but there's a lot of people that can officiate. So, I try not to just pluck guys out of the air, that try to vet them out a little bit and make sure that they're, I know when they first start, they're not going to be world beaters, but if people are comfortable working with them, it goes a long way.
Sure. Yeah, we talked about availability, and I can say to this day on my phone, from the time that I started trying to start getting varsity games, and you were the supervisor, DJ, uh, the do not disturb list, the exceptions I have on my phone are my
Yes.
wife, my mom, my brothers, and Dennis. So that's my phone will ring if any of those people call, uh, before 7 a.m.
Yep.
And that's no slight to
I
Michael.
will
It's
try.
just,
I will try not to bother you unless it's an emergency. So, um,
no, I get it. I
you
get
know,
it. But go ahead.
do you guys remember Gary Trexler? Was he around when you were?
No.
No.
Mm.
He was a referee for me, but he was a really good
Okay.
friend, and he got pancreatic cancer. It didn't last very long. But I could send a schedule out. Larry was a referee, and I could have him going to Manchester 3 weeks in a row, and he would never say a word. I mean, he would go where you ask him. He would do the best he could. He was he was a little hard on new guys, but he was a good trainer. He was a good teacher
Hmm.
as far as bringing people along. But that's what I'm looking for. I don't want somebody that says, "Well, I had Manchester 3 weeks ago. I really don't want to see him again." Well, you know, years ago, I had Toledo 9 out of 12 games over a 2-year period. So I finally asked the supervisor, I said, "Does this guy at Toledo like me?" And he said, he doesn't like anybody. He just dislikes you less than the rest. So that's,
That's what it takes.
you know,
Hey,
exactly. And what officials don't understand, and I didn't understand until I became a supervisor. Like if I called you tomorrow, Ryan, and said, "Hey, you were on this game, I'm going to have to move you to this game." Well, right away, you're probably thinking, "I wonder what I did." Well, it probably had nothing to do with you. It might have been 3 guys down the
sure,
line that had something come up.
sure.
So, and one thing I've learned over the years in this business, you can't take anything personal. You just, work the games they give you
Mm.
and work your best. And not all the good ones make it. I mean, we had a guy on our crew named Gary Hooten who could have worked any game in the country, and he never got the opportunity to go beyond Division II. So it's
Mm.
a lot of it is a crapshoot, but you got to get people helping you. Like somebody to introduce
Right.
you to the right people, somebody to kind of pull you along. So, and if people will be work with me, I'll try and help them all I can.
That's what I alluded to at the top of the show. I know that Dennis, you've done that for me, and you've done that for Ryan. And again, we're
Absolutely.
absolutely grateful and very much appreciative, and can't express it in words. So thank you.
Well, you guys are easy to help out because you work at it, you work hard at it, and that's all a guy can ask, is put in the time, and hopefully things will work well for you. And you're pretty good guys for the most
No,
part. So
we appreciate it. 80% of the time, 70% of the time, it all works out well. So,
Ryan's probably got as many dogs as you've got kids.
yeah, we're not running far behind at this point.
Nope.
uh, just to touch on one thing you
So
said there, Dennis, when you ask somebody to go work a certain game or whatever, I have to make a confession here. A couple years ago, you called me and asked me if I could work back judge for a game. And of course, I said yes. I had never worked back judge in my life at that point in time, but we always talk on here that the answer when you're asked something is the answer is yes. And so I went and I worked that game. And so if
yeah,
you need a back judge, I've got one game under my belt at this point in time.
okay.
We always talk
That's something
whenever
else.
when a supervisor calls, the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's part of. And I'm glad you didn't tell me you'd never worked back there. So that's
Well, if you watch
you
the film, it's probably apparent, but but no, but it's just we've talked about this on the show as a theme, like when you're trying to break in or you're trying to move up, the answer, you alluded to it, if you get sent to a certain school 3 weeks in a row, or you get moved off of a game to another game, the answer is yes. From my perspective, it might be a little further drive, but if you ask me to go to place A versus place B, I still get to work a football game on Saturday. So I can't ask for anything more than that. That's as good as it gets. So that's just our advice to people, that when the call comes in, the answer is yes.
So, you just got to do the best you can, and try to get in front of people that know you, that can help you. You guys like doing this, like you go to all the meetings. I see at all the clinics. So, that's what a supervisor is looking for, a guy that'll put in the time and effort. So.
We definitely appreciate that. Thank you very much for those kind words. I think the show was intended to be about you, but thank you for putting it back on us. So, well, on that, Dennis, is there anything else that you want to plug that you've got going on, or any other last tidbits you want to share with the Learn Your Stripes Nation?
Well, I just, I appreciate everybody that went before me. Larry Snyder did a great job with the HCAC. Tom Ransom did it before Larry. He did a good job. Baltzy took it over after Larry left, and he did a good job. And it really was left in pretty good hands by the time I got it. So, I'm happy that we've had some success. Last year we had 3 crews work the playoffs, I believe. I think both of you guys worked, if I'm not mistaken.
We did. Yep,
we did. So we appreciate that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, you earned it. And I feel like my job is to make it better for you guys coming along, and hopefully when I'm gone, dead and gone, you guys will pick up the torch and keep carrying it forward. It's I think Michael and I talked yesterday at the funeral, or at the church. Our friends are officials. We really don't do much with anybody that I didn't know through officiating, either basketball or football or baseball, or they become your best friends. And I think you guys are finding that out as you move along. So just, my thing is, everybody wants to get there, and everybody wants to get there tomorrow. And I was that way too. I thought, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Well, then when it did happen, it was over in a blink of an eye. 23 years just went flying by. And I'm to the point now where I probably got a couple years left in replay. And I'm okay with that. It's, it's time for younger people to step in and do stuff. And when I was your age, I was looking at guys my age thinking, why don't they get out of the way? So, but it's been a great life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I hope anybody that listens to this gets the same enjoyment out of it as I have.
Well, Dennis, we both appreciate your time tonight, but just on a personal level, you obviously gave Michael and me both our first opportunities, and we've had great success and great opportunities on the field, playoffs, regular season games because of you. So thank you both for being with us tonight, but also for all that you've done for both of us as well.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I'm happy I can do it. And, somebody recommended you guys to me. So when you see somebody that's really good, recommend them so that they get a chance. And, I would just tell younger people, stay with it. I know it's no fun in the junior high games where you got a guy that thinks he's Woody Hayes on one side. That's aging me a little. You got a guy that thinks he's, what was the guy from New England? Bill Belichick on the other side, and they're biting at you. But, just get through it. And the farther you go, the better the football becomes, the easier it becomes to officiate. So, don't give up. Stay with it. I know it's frustrating, we all get frustrated with it, but and know the old supervisor's doing the best he can. So.
Right.
Absolutely. No, we'll keep that in mind. But again, thanks for your time tonight, Dennis. And again, thanks for all that you've done for both of us. We're both very indebted to you. So,
my pleasure, fellas.
right.
Thanks for having me on.
Once more, we'd like to thank Dennis for joining us tonight. And we also want to thank all of you for joining us for another episode of Learn Your Stripes. For now, as always, we'll leave you with a play to consider.
Okay, 4th and 10 from the A10. And A99's punt is partially blocked in the end zone, goes high into the air, and it bounces at the A11. And B59 bats the ball towards A's end zone. And A99 recovers and advances the ball to the A15 where he is tackled. What is your ruling in high school and college? And who will next snap the ball?
We'll discuss that play at the start of our next episode. In the meantime, if you want to let us know what your ruling would be, or if you have any questions or feel we made a mistake, please email us at learnyourstripes@gmail.com. You can also contact us at learnyourstripes@gmail.com if you're interested in sponsoring an episode or advertising on the show. You can find us on your app of choice or obtain episodes at learnyourstripespodcast.com. Please also follow us on Facebook at Learn Your Stripes Podcast, on Instagram at the same name, and on X at LYS_podcast. If you enjoy the show, please tell your friends and rate us 5 stars and leave a review on your app of choice. We'll see you back here soon. In the meantime, keep learning your stripes.
Thank you, everyone.